presentation today is Relaxation in Your Health. I will be going through a series of slides on stress management and relaxation, and then the final part of the presentation we will actually go through 2 or 3 different exercises to allow you to experience some of the techniques of relaxation so that you can hopefully start implementing this into your regular day and your routine. So to open, I have a quote here by Byron Pulitzer, and it says, "Find a way to relax that takes you to a joyful level, a level that quiets the nerves and allows thoughts to be calm." And again, my name is Tanya Gilbert. If you have any questions for me, I will be sending the slides out electronically after the presentation, and feel free to reply if we don't get a chance to answer your questions today. First and foremost, I want to make sure that you get credit for attending the webinar. So how that will work is there'll be a short quiz, just 3 questions. The link will be available in the slides. You're also welcome to type the URL into your browser afterward if you want to go ahead and get that done. But it will also be emailed to everyone who is registered for the webinar. So just keep that in mind. You must answer at least 2 of the 3 questions correctly, and they are just based on paying attention to the material today. And you must provide your full name and your date of birth for us to pull you up in the system to give you credit for coaching credit. So, and up to 2 credits can be earned through webinars and on-site presentations towards your premium reduction and incentive for 2017. All right, so to get started here, I want to go through the difference between the stress response and the relaxation response. So we all understand what stress is on some level, I'm sure. But if I was to ask you to bring me a bucket of stress, you probably couldn't do that because it doesn't, it's a non-material thing. It doesn't exist except in the mind. So what does that mean? It means that all stress is essentially perception, which we'll talk about. But when you're feeling stress, there are certain physiological changes that happen with the body that actually are relatively primitive. Most of them are very primitive, so by understanding this, we can have better control over them. So what happens is our heart rate increases, our blood pressure goes up, your body actually produces more cholesterol, and then specific systems in the body will shut down when you're stressed. And the reason for this is your body goes into something called fight or flight, which you've probably heard of before. But when this occurs, your body says, okay, I'm in danger. I need to either run away or I need to get strong. So I'm going to put all my focus on what's going to have me win this battle or run away. So the systems in your body that aren't necessary to either fight or to run, they shut down, which includes things like your immune system, your reproductive system, and your digestive system. So those are the types of symptoms that you may get when you are feeling stressed. You may get sick. If you're trying to have children or you notice a libido change, that could be definitely a factor. Because it does increase your heart rate, blood pressure, you may notice some insomnia, and your digestive system may be out of balance. But when you're specifically practicing relaxation, and we'll talk about the difference between this and watching TV, for example, you're going to notice kind of the opposite will happen. Your immune system is actually boosted. Your blood pressure goes down. Your heart rate, your resting heart rate will go down. You may sleep a lot better and have an overall sense of well-being and more balanced digestion. So we're going to go through specifics of these today. Right. So just to give you a breakdown of what's going on with the automatic nervous system is what's activated with stress, or the central nervous system. You have your sympathetic nervous system, which is what the stress response is linked to, and parasympathetic is what the relaxation response is linked to. So if you look at these 2 systems, it's just kind of a breakdown. I wanted to show you what's going on inside your nervous system and what these systems are called. So again, sympathetic is your stress response, and parasympathetic is your relaxation response. So the goal today, if nothing else, is to have you balance, you teeter onto the side of being more relaxed versus stressed, and have real specific ways to do that after today. I want to help you do that. So here's just a picture to show you the difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So they call the sympathetic response fight or flight, but the parasympathetic, this term may be a little new to you, it's called rest and digest. meaning that you're resting, and things like your digestive system will now function normally or more balanced, as they like to say. So a little bit more on the stress response. It is the body's physiological reaction to, and I underline these words for a reason, real or imagined stimulus or perceived danger. Now, we talked about that. So everybody has a different perception of reality, and that is filtered through our brain, our own experiences, our input, things that our senses are pulling in information from the environment. The interesting thing is that one person may be stressed, for example, by being caught in traffic. The next person might find that a chance to just relax and listen to some music and not have to worry about being anywhere, because you can't really do much about traffic, right? The other thing that's important to remember with the stress response is that if you've had a stressful incident that happened, for example, I don't know, a car crash, and then you get in a car again, that may trigger stress because of a stored memory. There's an exaggerated form of this, the stored memory stress response. Does anyone know what this would be called? Anybody have an idea? Can you use the chat box? No? This would be a post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD is essentially a chronic stress reaction that you can't get out of. That's really what that is, just to kind of give you a little bit more information. We won't be talking about PTSD really today. I just wanted to let you know where that's originating from. So here's the types of stress we are going to talk about today. Acute stress. This is actually helpful. Like if you were camping and a bear did show up, you're going to want to run away from that bear, and you want your body to work with you in that specific situation where blood will rush to your extremities. You'll get certain hormones that will help you, your senses get more acute and you're stronger, things like that. So in a certain emergency, you do want a stress response. Now what happens is when we get into a stress response, when fight or flight is activated in the nervous system and it doesn't come back down, it doesn't get back down to, or the parasympathetic nervous system isn't activated, and you go into a homeostasis state, and this is what means by what I say balance. This leads to chronic stress, and this is where the immune system and other digestive systems in your body will be negatively affected, especially mental health. You may feel more anxiety and depression. And it takes time to get back to a state of homeostasis. You need to be doing things that are getting your brain and your body in a relaxed state, and this can take a half an hour to a couple of days even after, depending on the stressful event. You need time to really decompress after these types of incidents. So if you have a stressful job, for example, you should be making relaxation a priority outside of work to help you stay balanced. 3 stress hormones that we'll talk about today are, you've heard of adrenaline probably. It's known as the fight or flight hormone, and this is also related to cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. These all happen when you get into that mode of running or fighting. So with adrenaline, you're going to have a heart rate increase, a surge of energy. Norepinephrine is another stress hormone. This one is why if you have a specific stressful moment in your life, like the example I use here is I can remember what I was wearing and where I was on September 11th, 2001, I'm sorry. So if you can remember that, it's because of the certain hormones that are going through your body. You become very focused and aware of what's going on in that moment. Norepinephrine also is what helps shift the blood flow away from your organs and towards your muscles. Your muscles are what are going to be stronger during that surge of hormones. Cortisol can also be released, though, when you're just stewing over a past event. So it's important, if you did experience a stressful event, that you take time to clear your mind and to not stew over an event, because if you really vividly imagine something, which we'll go through today, how powerful that is, you don't want to live in that moment, because your body will think it's actually happening again. So it's important to not stew on past memories as well if they're negative. So here's a little bit about how a breakdown of what we know. Adrenaline and norepinephrine are increasing your heart rate and your blood pressure. Especially if you stay elevated for a long period of time, you may have to go on blood pressure medication, for example. But cortisol is doing a lot more. This is really the stress hormone that causes problems for the body. It impairs the thyroid. It impairs your ability to think and perform cognitively. It affects your muscles in a negative way. It decreases the bone density in the body, increases your risk of osteoporosis. It lowers your immune system, so not just potentially catching viruses or bacteria, but any wounds you have will heal slower when you're stressed. It's pretty awful stuff when you have too much cortisol. You need a little bit, but you get too much and it causes problems. You also have cortisol receptors around your abdomen, so if you do notice a weight gain when you're stressed, it's probably going to be around your belly. And because it causes mood imbalances and sugar cravings, it can result in emotional eating too. So here's just a chart to break down all the things that are happening with the stress hormones. Again, the biggest takeaway here is blood pressure, blood sugar, and heart rate increase. And these are all things that affect your risk for chronic conditions and your risk of a heart attack. So it's very important health-wise. Heart disease is the #1 killer in America. It's killed more people each year than all the world wars combined. So it's incredibly important that we have we prioritize our relaxation techniques to help improve our overall health. Any questions so far? Are you guys doing okay? I can't see you, so I'm going to take your word for it that if I don't hear anything, you're still with me. So here's a little bit on chronic stress, and if you look at the chart at the bottom here, it shows how we want to be and need to be in homeostasis, but when we have a perceived threat, again, perception, it's a personal thing, and it's something that you can work on. If you perceive things as challenges, for example, instead of problems, they can become, just by using that word, I'm being challenged today. I don't have any problems, I have challenges. But that perceived threat will activate fight or flight, and if you don't come out of fight or flight, you go into exhaustion. And eventually you will reach homeostasis, but it will be after a flood of stress hormones and health impairments. Symptoms of chronic stress are going to be anxiety, depression, irritability, headaches, or insomnia. And behaviors associated with chronic stress are going to be, we just talked about overeating. Perhaps your appetite's completely gone, you're not eating enough. You may seek alcohol or drugs to change your state of consciousness because you're stressed. And you may become socially isolated, which are all very unhealthy. So now I'd like to talk about some of the specific systems that are affected by stress. And all of this information is gearing up towards the relaxation techniques that we're going to practice at the end, because I want you to understand how incredibly important it is that we do these and what stress could actually be doing to the body. So in terms of your respiratory and your cardiovascular system, stress will make you breathe faster, so in order to bring more oxygen to the body. But those stress hormones we talked about, adrenaline, norepinephrine, those are going to constrict your blood vessels, which is another reason why it raises your blood pressure. So you've increased heart rate, constricted blood vessels, and so your heart is working harder as more stressed you are. So that raises your risk of high blood pressure, obviously. It also increases your risk of a heart attack or stroke. You also get increased cholesterol output when you're stressed. And if you look at the picture here at the bottom, what happens with a stroke, one example of what can happen with a stroke is that the plaque that builds up in the arteries when you have high cholesterol, especially LDL cholesterol, it can break off, and that can cause a blood clot, which can lead to a stroke. And if it completely blocks an artery, it can cause a heart attack. So that's another reason why it's important to manage your cholesterol. And stress, I think, is a huge factor in that, because the liver will output more cholesterol when you're stressed, like I said, but also your eating habits are affected by your stress. There's a huge correlation there. So your weight can definitely be affected. I always encouraged people when I was a coach for weight loss, that stress management should be a huge component of that, if not the most important thing. Because I think there's a huge correlation there that a lot of weight loss programs don't look at that stress component, I think, enough. So if you're having trouble losing weight, implement a relaxation routine for 20 minutes a day. Give that a shot for a couple of weeks, and you will be amazed at how easy, not easy, but how it might be a lot more simple for you to change your eating habits with that. All right, so the liver also produces extra blood sugar to increase your energy when you're stressed, because again, you want to run away or fight, essentially, is the primitive response. But unused blood sugar that's, floating around your body in your bloodstream, when it's unused, it increases your risk for type 2 diabetes because your blood sugar levels are increasing. The rapid breathing and increased heart rate and upset digestive system can increase heartburn or acid reflux when you're stressed. It also can affect the way food moves through your body, leading to diarrhea or constipation. Or if your digestive system kind of shuts down, nothing's gonna move, and it's gonna cause pain in the stomach and constipation problems there. All right. Your immune system. You may have noticed during a stressful period that you catch cold. And that's not a coincidence because cortisol production compromises your immune system. So people under chronic stress are more susceptible to viral infections, to bacteria infections, especially, we're coming up on flu season. This is another motivator for you, hopefully, to make sure that you're practicing proper relaxation. Because stress also leads to the lack of sleep and unhealthy eating, that further can compound the effectiveness of your immune system. Your immune system, I would say, needs a little bit of a boost every day. It's a multi-dimensional thing. So if you're cutting back on your sleep, if you're grabbing candy bars instead of an apple, and you do that over time, incrementally, your immune system starts to tick down, and it reduces the effectiveness, especially as cortisol builds up in your system. So it's not one day that you went out to lunch and had fast food. It's your habits that are going to control the outcome of your body. So always say, what are my habits? I always say do a habit check once a month. See what you're doing on a regular basis, because those are the things that are really going to incrementally add up to your health. So, and reduced immune system will also make it harder to recover from any type of illness or injury. Questions about the system so far? All right. Good deal. So here's a little bit more about stress and weight gain. This is what I actually did my graduate thesis on in college. So I used a little bit of the material that I had from back then. So metabolically, cortisol slows down your metabolism, unfortunately, and like we talked about, it increases your cravings, and the receptors are in your stomach, so it localizes the weight gain there. Anxiety from the adrenaline response can affect your eating behaviors and lead to overeating, because food can be very sedating. Whether you've heard about when you eat a lot of turkey, it releases tryptophan. That's why you get tired on Thanksgiving. What they've found is that that's across the board with any food. You eat a lot of any food, and your body produces more tryptophan, so you get tired. So that's a lot of people may be habitually doing that without realizing it to calm down. So it's something to be aware of. Also, when you're stressed, you don't have time usually, so you're grabbing or going through drive-thrus and getting convenience food, either due to lack of time or lack of energy or perhaps craving. Another thing, too, is that when you're stressed and you're tired, you're probably going to grab more caffeine and alcohol. So what happens with that? Well, caffeine can stay in the body for up to 12 hours. And even if you don't realize it, it could be affecting your ability to go into deep sleep. Much like alcohol prevents the body. So it may seem like it's relaxing you. It actually prevents the body from going into deep sleep or REM sleep, which is where your body actually recovers. So if you're drinking alcohol to de-stress and to help you sleep, you wake up the next day, you're going to probably be even worse off than you were before, because your body's not going to get that recovery sleep. And lack of sleep will increase your appetite. It throws off the two hormones in your body that control your appetite. You may notice that if you have a night where you don't get enough sleep, you're really hungry. Leptin and ghrelin are the two hormones in your brain that control your appetite. Your appetite is actually controlled in your brain, not really your stomach. You may find yourself looking for more sugar or carbs for energy. And also, when you're tired, your willpower is down. So when someone brings the donuts into the office, you're going to be like, all right. So you're not able to stay pat as easily. And there's a little chart here at the bottom that shows how stress and cortisol go up with hunger and fat storage, and leptin sensitivity is one of those hormones that controls your appetite. So this is important. This is an important slide here. Stress and perception. So I would say perception is reality, which means you have the power to change it. And reality is whatever we perceive it to be. So this is kind of called the silver lining effect. Someone shared from the last time I did this presentation live that a good way to alter perception is through gratitude, maybe even making a gratitude list, pulling yourself back into what you are thankful for. Maybe instead of looking at the things that you're missing, look at the things you've escaped. You know, you're not sick today. You know, you don't have to go to work. You get to go to work. We all have jobs if we're on this webinar. So any event, you know, remember, is a neutral event. It's our filter of perception that makes it good or bad, essentially. And not to diminish anyone going through a trauma or crisis. There's exceptions to this, obviously. But in general, you know, if you spill a glass of water on your desk, that may be seen as bad, but what if you needed to clean your desk anyway? I mean, so there you go. Hey, I get to clean my desk. You know, there's always a way to interpret something differently. So that's a challenge I'll give you today as a takeaway from today's material, is that try to look at things a little bit differently, a little bit more positively, and see how that changes your stress level overall. And that can be, like I said, using certain words. Instead of using the word problem, use the word challenge. Instead of using the word have to, use the word get to. And that can be a very enlightening thing to do to help improve our mental filters. Any questions? How you guys doing? You doing all right? Okay. All right, so here's a little exercise I'd like to do with you today. If you could take a look at the screen, please share in the chat box what it is that you see when you look at the screen. Faces, okay? I see faces, all right, that's good. Yeah, if I look at the white part of the screen, I see faces. But what if you look at the, oh, somebody else said something. Two people looking at each other, yes. Or vases, exactly. So if you look at the screen and you see, focus on the black, to me, a vase popped out. I've also heard bird bath or even margarita glass. So margarita glass isn't healthy, but it may be what your filter sees, which is fine. Yeah, so this is just, how could this exercise be used in real life stressful situations is the question. So if you have something in front of you, it all depends on what you're focusing on, essentially, because things can be seen differently depending on what our attention is on. And I always say that they say there's over 1 billion stimuli in your environment each day. So you get to choose what you're focusing on, and that includes, obviously, in your day-to-day face-to-face interactions, social media that you follow. Various things are going to be on your radar, and you can control that. So I would say make that, you know, if you're feeling stressed, maybe follow some positive mindset stuff on social media. Maybe put positive quotes up around your office. There's little things you can do that accumulate over time that it can affect our stress levels and our perception. So thank you for sharing your feedback. Thank you. So now we're going to talk about relaxation and a few specific techniques I'll walk you through that are really fun to help you learn how to relax better. So what is relaxation essentially? Technically, the physiological term is it occurs when the brain and the body experience a biochemical change. And this change is a reduction in stress hormones, a reduction in your blood pressure, and a reduction in your heart rate. It also means that the brain is producing something called alpha waves, which I'll show you a chart on the next screen. So many people think that relaxation is watching television or reading a book, but research shows this is not actually relaxation. This is too stimulating to the brain to be considered a recuperating parasympathetic nervous system form of relaxation, okay? So here is a really cool slide that should ask, are you really relaxing? So research has been done using EEG monitors that monitor brainwave activity on patterns of people watching TV versus using relaxation techniques. And the scans show that practicing relaxation is what really specific kinds of relaxation. We'll go through 4 kinds today. of what causes the brain to switch from beta to alpha or from gamma to alpha. Watching TV does not do this, especially some of the popular shows going on right now like Game of Thrones. That is not going to help you get in an alpha state by any means. So I would say have your time, enjoy watching TV or reading or whatever you do for fun, but implement specific relaxation techniques if you're really wanting to get those stress hormones reduced in your body. And we already talked about how incredibly damaging they could be. You know, this should definitely be a priority for everybody. So taking a look at the chart here, you can see how fast the brain waves are going. When you're in a gamma state, you're doing something specific. You know, you're honing in on something, you're plugged in, some kind of problem solving. Hopefully you're like this now. You're really excited about relaxation and you're enjoying your slides. Beta is a normal day. You're busy, you're active. But alpha is when you're in a reflective, restful state. And then theta is when you're drifting off to sleep. And then when you're actually in sleep and you're dreaming, you're in a delta state. Any questions about relaxation in the brain? All right, so remember, your brain needs a break. The body is always rebuilding itself, but it rebuilds it much better if you have turned off your brain activity. These are going to be not to the point where you completely turn off the brain, but what you want to do is engage your brain elsewhere. And this is a book by Matthew Edlund. So this is the point. Turning off your brain is essentially sleeping, okay? And believe it or not, that doesn't help really reduce the stress hormones like relaxation does. So we want to basically take all these crazy, you know, our mind is constantly has this this background chatter. If you've noticed, the point of relaxation is to quiet that, to engage it in something besides that chatter. So that's what leads to stress, essentially. So this is when we'll talk about the relaxation response. Again, this type of response is going to elicit the parasympathetic nervous system returning the body back to normal, balanced functioning, or a state of what we call homeostasis. It strengthens the parasympathetic nervous system as well. So imagine that you're training for a marathon and you run every day. You get better at running, right? Same with relaxation. You're essentially classically conditioning yourself to be more relaxed. You know, remember that study with Pavlov and the dog. So the more you do this, the better you get at it, really, and it's awesome how that works. So Herbert Benson was a Harvard cardiologist who wrote a book, and he founded and coined the term relaxation response. But what he found in his studies was that he had people practice relaxation for 20 minutes a day, and within 30 days, these people were getting off their blood pressure medication. Your body can produce its own relaxation chemicals. It doesn't need things like Valium or sleeping pills. Those typically mask the problem. But this type of relaxation can reduce your cortisol, your blood sugar, your blood pressure, anxiety, and chronic pain. So we want to definitely learn how to elicit this response. Here are some of the health benefits of eliciting the relaxation response. It's going to boost serotonin, which is the neurotransmitter that's associated with depression. It decreases your heart rate, your respiratory rate, your blood pressure, improves your sleep, decreases anxiety, et cetera, et cetera. So all the things that we talked about that are bad, basically this makes all those things better. And there's a laundry list of things here that I wanted to make sure you had in case you can identify with something specific. And a big one here is increasing alpha waves in the brain. So that's really good. And then all these things associated with stress and heart health are going to be, and then mental health. You know, you want to make sure on all of these things are linked to your weight. So I know I've got real fancy artwork, so I'm going to erase that. So this is exciting for me to tell you about this because most people aren't really aware of specific types of relaxation and what really they can get from them. So if you're dealing with a specific type of health condition, I made a list here of some of the ones that can be improved with relaxation. I won't list all these because they're in front of you if you see anything that you personally identify with, but one of the big ones that most people don't realize is associated with stress and relaxation is infertility. Why might fertility be boosted essentially by relaxation? I worked with a guy in college. He was a psychotherapist, and he's actually the guy that you'll listen to on the recording today. His briefcase is lined with pictures of babies that he helped conceive. But can anyone tell me why relaxation is beneficial for fertility? So it's fine. I'll tell you. A couple of things. Obviously it's going to make people feel better, so more likely to properly reproduce, and also it's going to help your body shut down systems it doesn't need to run away from a threat. So one of those is your reproductive system. So in all aspects of that, it's going to be negatively affected. Also the social withdrawal. There's all kinds of social aspects of it that lead people to not come together. So they found that promoting relaxation does promote fertility. So many different facets there. But a lot of these are linked to the things that we've already talked about. So the first exercise I'd like you to do is to sit comfortably, in your chair, and we're going to practice what's called relaxed breathing. So most of the time when you inhale, you think you suck in, right? Well, that's actually the opposite of what I want you to do here. So you want to inhale and actually push your diaphragm down and out. We're going to try this real quick. We're going to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And your lungs, this actually causes your lungs to expand so they pull in more oxygen. So when you breathe out, your lungs should get smaller and your diaphragm should push up. So try this again. When you breathe in, your lungs expand, your diaphragm pushes outward and down. And then exhale through your mouth and your diaphragm pushes up. So if you find yourself in a stressful situation, wherever you are, you can always practice your breathing. And this will help reduce the stress hormones in your body. It's pretty amazing. And increase oxygen and blood flow, which is part of what causes the body to get so tense. And you can inhale through your mouth or your nose. It's not entirely specific for this exercise. Different types of breathing will tell you to do that specifically, but for this one, I just want you to focus on the lung expansion and the outward push and then the inward push when you exhale. That's hard to get because you're probably used to doing it opposite. Questions about relaxed breathing? All right. So here are the 4 types of relaxation we're going to practice today. These are really cool exercises that we have for visualization and guided relaxation. We'll do 2. Just to give you some information on mindfulness, you've probably heard of this. It's kind of a new age thing that's going around right now. But the difference, this quote says, mindfulness helps us get better at seeing the difference between what's happening and the stories we tell ourselves about what's happening. So again, that goes into that mental chatter that you might have going on in your mind. And a lot of that is just based on past experiences, judgments, people that you've been around. Everything influences what's going on in that chatter. So it's important for us to quiet that, because what the literature says is that the chatter is like a dirty politician. You can't really believe it because it's just a story as you tell ourselves. So we need to make sure that we're quieting that chatter and becoming aware of it so that we can clear it out and make it more positive. So mindfulness is what allows us to be in the moment and become aware of that chatter. So remember, when it comes to mindfulness, we need to be present in the moment. The best way to do this is to really ask yourself what your senses are bringing in right now. So what are you looking at? What colors are you looking at? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? And this goes into when you're eating. Mindful eating is a great way to promote weight management as well, taking time to experience and savor your food. When you're walking outside, you're mindful walking, you're feeling the air blowing, you're seeing the leaves that are changing color a little bit now. There's an acronym here at the bottom about mindfulness. It says moment-to-moment attention. You're in the here and the now. You're not judging anything. You're taking away that part of your mental chatter. You're detaching from unhelpful or negative thoughts, forgiving, being grateful, and really essentially accepting instead of fighting what's happening. And then when it says learn with the beginner's mind, if you're an expert, you're not learning anything. You've got to become open-minded and stay open-minded. But that acceptance is huge. You know, when you're not fighting, you can say, okay, this is what's going on right now, and I'm just going to roll with it, instead of saying, oh, I hate what this is, and I don't want to do this. Hopefully you're not thinking that now. But acceptance and just being grateful about where you are, letting your senses pull in your environment is what mindfulness is about. Here are 3 things you can do every day to start being more mindful. We've already talked about the breathing. You take deep breaths, push your diaphragm out, and then exhale and push your diaphragm in. That's mindful breathing. You're aware of your breath. Mindful eating is a great thing to do with your next meal. Try to mindfully eat. It's hard at first. If you're a fast eater like I used to be, you just got to take your time and really enjoy and savor your food. And mindful walking can be walking outside, maybe going for a stroll barefoot, and really feeling your environment, and enjoying your environment and the animals around you, etc. Does anybody else need examples of how they practice mindfulness they want to share? Does anybody do this already? It's a great technique to learn, and I encourage you all to try it today. So the other technique that we're just going to talk about a little bit today is meditation. And you've heard this word before, and I think it's kind of tainted. You know, you think you have to be a Buddha and sit Indian style to meditate, but that's not the case at all. Meditating is really just taking your attention off your mental chatter by focusing on something very simple. And that can be an object, a thought, a feeling. I'm a big fan of using a mantra or a word or a phrase, like saying the word, "I'm feeling calm and relaxed." Some people use candles, or some people just simply use their breathing and just sit there and focus on your breathing. That's a form of meditation, because the technique is really essentially trying to change the energy in the brain. So if you look at the picture at the bottom, this is a brain before and after a 10-minute meditation. You can see the activity is quieting down. So you're reducing that stressed activity in the brain, which your thoughts control your physiology, so therefore your whole body's changing as well. So the next thing I always get after this slide is, how do I meditate? Well, I'm glad you asked. We'll go through that, so don't worry. Just real quick, some of the health benefits. Pretty much everything that's associated with the parasympathetic nervous system, improves sleep, heart health, anxiety. It'll actually help you focus and be more productive. They found it helpful with breaking addictive behaviors. And because it calms you down, you may notice that your social relationships improving too, because you're more calm and relaxed with your friends and your family. And this is a great quote. It says, you should sit for meditation or in meditation for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should sit for an hour. I love that, and I agree with it. I think it's a great quote. All right, so once again, I'd like you to be sitting comfortably in your chair, and here are 3 steps if you'd like to learn how to meditate today. So sit comfortably with your spine erect and both legs on the floor, or feet on the floor, I'm sorry, and your thighs forming a 90-degree angle with the ground. And keep your feet about shoulder width apart. And just close your eyes and breathe as naturally as possible. You don't have to do the diaphragmatic breathing right now. Just breathe in and breathe out just normally. And just start to quiet your mind. Thoughts are going to come, and you don't have to force them to go away. You just keep bringing yourself back to your breath. And like I said, the more you practice this, the more that you're going to be able to tune out those distractions. And things that can also evoke a calming effect with meditation, like I said before, are certain words, religious prayers, maybe some song lyrics or quotes. If you like the word, "I'm feeling calm," "I'm feeling peaceful," "I'm feeling relaxed." You can have a mantra like that. It's just your own preference. It's something you identify with as a calming word or phrase. Any comments or questions on relaxation? Or I'm sorry, meditation, relaxation? All right. So now we're going to do a really fun exercise. Who wants to go to the beach? Anybody? I know I do. We're actually going to go to the beach. I know, right? From your seat today. So we're going to practice something called visualization. And visualization is extremely powerful. Olympic athletes actually use visualization to practice for the event, because the better you are at visualizing, the same muscles will fire in your body that happen on track. If you're a runner, for example, as they do when you're visualizing, because your brain or your brain doesn't know whether or not you're imagining it or if it's actually happening. So to do this, you have to try to get as close as possible to the environment. Sound can really help. That's why when you go to the beach, I'm going to be playing a recording for you. But it's important to really see yourself there, to remember if you've been to the beach, how the air would smell, what it would look like, salt water, everything. Kind of pull in all the details with your senses. And the more you practice the visualization exercise, the more powerful it will become. This is just what I was talking about. So Olympic athletes, they did a study where they hooked them up to biofeedback equipment, and when they ran the event in their mind, the same muscles would fire, because the men can't distinguish between really doing it or if it's just visualized, especially if you get really good at it. Okay? So now, like I said, I want you to make sure that you're comfortable in your chair, and we are going to do a 3-minute visit to the beach. So if you bear with me here, I'm going to get this set up, and I just want you to get comfortable, and then I'm going to play a recording for you for 3 minutes, and we're going to go visit this beach here. So take a good look at the photo and absorb that into your mind, and then I'll play this recording for you for about 3 minutes, okay? All right. You want to go ahead and open your eyes for me? And so how was the beach? Anybody have a nice little stroll or relax on the beach? So, well, that is how relaxation exercise visualization works. And this sound you heard, you can download free apps on your phone that have the sounds of nature, or you can purchase a sound machine. There's several on Amazon that are great. But essentially, just having a way to pull you into that environment is the goal of visualization. So hopefully you're able to have a nice little experience there. All right. The final of the 4 types of relaxation that we're going to go through today is called guided relaxation, or progressive relaxation, essentially. So this allows you to have a professional walk you through certain steps of relaxation. It's actually really awesome. This is how I personally learned how to relax. I think it's a great way when you're new to relaxation. But it tells you how to ignore distractions and tune out that mental chatter we talked about. And to get relaxation recordings, the one today is from a psychotherapist that I actually job shadowed in college, and his website is relaxdeeply.org if you're interested in checking this out after I play his recording for you. They're also on Amazon, smartphone. There's apps like Insight Timer is a good one that's free. And local department stores will sell CDs. They also sell like Sounds in Nature CDs, things that you can buy if you would rather have a hard copy of something. So once again, I'd like you to get comfortable in your seat. And if you need an idea about where you'd like to sit, this is a great one. So just a beautiful scenery of sunset. And we are going to go through, it's about 5 minutes of a progressive relaxation recording. And he is going to walk you through the various steps of relaxation. So I will play that for you here in a moment.
I will show you a way to relax very deeply. Sit in a comfortable chair and follow these simple directions. You may begin by closing your eyes and taking some slow, deep breaths. Pay careful attention to how it feels as you feel yourself exhale. Allow that feeling to spread over your entire body. Nothing need disturb you, no thought, no noise. And all the time I'm talking, all the time you're hearing me, continue to take slow, deep breaths and allow that feeling of relaxation to spread over you deeper and deeper. Nothing need disturb you, no thought, no noise. The first step is to sit in a chair. If you do the exercise sitting, it is possible to go into deep relaxation without falling asleep. If you do the exercise lying down, you will simply teach yourself to fall asleep quickly. And that's not what we want to accomplish right now. The second step is to close your eyes. When you close your eyes, you shut out 1,000 distractions and begin to focus internally. The third step is to pay attention to how it feels as you feel yourself exhale, and to allow that feeling of relaxation
All right, so we're back, but I wanted to make sure that we had an example of progressive relaxation. So any feedback? Did you find that to be a little helpful in kind of teaching you how to relax and to be more calm? One of the things you'll realize is that the voice that you listen to is a big factor in whether or not it helps you. So, like, I don't care for the Insight Timer's voice. So you have to kind of play around with what works best for you in terms of what's helping you be more relaxed and efficiently getting you into that relaxed state. All right. So in summary today, we've learned various ways of relaxation. And again, remember that stress is a physiological response that's damaging to the mind and to the body. And relaxation's goal is to help you get to the point where you're minimizing that stress response. Another takeaway from today is remember that perception is going to affect how your body feels stressed and how you experience it. So try to take in that silver lining, practicing gratitude, and using specific words to help you reframe various experiences, for example, from problems to challenges. And hopefully you're able to practice one of the 4 techniques we learned today, meditation, mindfulness, visualization, or progressive relaxation. And once you start to do these routinely, you may notice a big improvement in your mind and the health of your body as well. All right. So now that we've completed the webinar today, you will earn 1 coaching session credit if you complete the quiz effectively, and you also make sure that you know you can only earn 2 credits for webinars and presentations. So you're welcome to come to as many as you'd like. I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. This link will be a live link inside the PDF that I'll email out to all of you this afternoon if you registered. You can also type it in. It's just surveymonkey.com/r/Endress-quiz3. And then if you'd like to connect on LinkedIn, I'm available on LinkedIn. I also have 2 wellness blogs that I promote, one on Facebook and one on Twitter. So feel free to follow me on either of those pages. And then if you're interested in the materials that I used to write the presentation today, those are all on the reference page, the books and the website. So feel free to stick around and ask some questions if you'd like. For some feedback that it can help you fall asleep, this recording, yeah, definitely. So feel free to check these out, and I'll be available via email with any questions. But thanks so much for attending, and good luck practicing your own relaxation techniques.